A Jamaican teen under investigation over threats to carry out a mass shooting at his school. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, February 20. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. With the tragedy of yet another school shooting in the United States still fresh, police in Jamaica have acted quickly on a threat by a 17-year-old high school student to carry out a similar action at his institution of learning. On Monday, detectives from the Counterterrorism and Organization Crime (CTOC) questioned the student of Wolmer's Boys School who sent a voice message to a teacher threatening to carry out a shooting. The teen's parents, along with 2 other students, were also questioned, and the Education Ministry says it's assisting police in conducting a psychological assessment of the boy at the center of the investigation. TVJ's Herman Green has more.
The 10 minutes and 35-second voice note was circulated on social media Monday morning. In it, a teenager who identifies himself as a student of the Wolmer's Boys School threatened to carry out a mass killing. He lists societal behavior and being ostracized by friends as his motivation. The voice note caught the attention of head of CTOC, Assistant Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey.
We had actually deployed personnel, operational persons to the particular school just in case. A decision was taken and I was dispatched as the head of CTOC. It shows the level of seriousness that was placed on such a voice note.
We're aware of it. We have gotten the student, just spoken to the student and parent, and it is being dealt with. The school community is extremely safe.
A release from the police high command said a high-level investigative team is now probing the threat. ACP Bailey confirmed with TVJ News that the 18-year-old student who created the voice note was identified and held for questioning. His parents were also called in for questioning.
I just want to reassure the public that there is no need to be panicked at this time. We believe that the individual, based on our assessment, do not have the capacity or the capability to execute the plans that he has actually outlined on the voice note.
Over in Grenada, 45 people have been nominated to contest next month's general election, and Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell is urging political parties to keep the campaign peaceful. Tuesday's nomination day exercise saw the ruling New National Party, the NNP, and the main opposition National Democratic Congress, the NDC, each nominating 15 candidates to compete in the March 13th poll. There are also 4 independents and other candidates from 5 minority parties. After submitting his nomination papers at the St. George's Northeast Parliamentary Elections Office, Prime Minister Mitchell said it was a special occasion for him since it was likely his last time contesting an election. And he said he was extremely confident of the NNP's returning to power. But Mitchell also expressed concern about some incidents on the campaign trail.
My only concern is that we keep this process peaceful, and that political parties should not encourage their supporters to attend the political meetings of opposing forces. There's nothing wrong with an opponent being at a meeting, but if you're going there and going right up into the speaker's face and trying to disrupt the political meeting, that's a violation of the law, election law, and therefore the police, whether it's me or whoever, should arrest us if we do that. So I've spoken to my supporters at a rally on on Sunday and told them they should not go. But if they do go, then they should not do anything that disrupt the political meeting of my opponent or opponent of the New National Party. And if they do that, then the police have a right to arrest them, and I will not be sympathetic to any of my supporters who do this.
Meantime, opposition leader Nazim Burke says his party won't be playing any blame game this election campaign, and he's also confident that the NDC will form the new government after the polls.
Our purpose really is to ensure that the general public, when they go to the polls on election day, they can answer two fundamental questions. First, which of the two political parties have the best plan for the future of Grenada? And secondly, which of the two political parties have the best team to carry out that plan, whatever that plan happens to be? We feel confident that if people were to seriously consider all that is happening and all that has happened, and when they answer those two questions, we feel confident they will come up with the answer the National Democratic Party.
Staying with election developments in the region, Cuba will have a new president after April 19th, and that's when citizens will go to the polls to elect a successor for Raul Castro, who has indicated he will not be seeking re-election. But before the presidential vote, Cubans will go to the polls on March 11 to elect new deputies and provincial delegates for a new parliamentary term. We get more on the election process, which has already begun, in this special report from Richards, our new partners. That's from our new partner station, Kana Carib TV in Cuba.
The second stage of the general elections actually running in Cuba is scheduled for the 11th of March. More than 8 million Cubans are called to participate in this process for the elections of deputies to the National Assembly of People's Power and delegates to provincial assemblies. This second general election phase will take place with the corresponding exercise of a free, direct, secret double vote of the people in nearly 25,000 polling stations. Of these, 141 are special due to the fact that they will be located in hospitals, passenger terminals and other spaces so as to provide a more comfortable and fast accessibility to voters. There will also be 2 ballot boxes at polling stations so the electorate may vote for all, for several or for only one of their preferred candidates included on the ballots. Voters must present their identity cards or armed forces identity documents in order to vote and meet all the requirements outlined in the electoral law. The age required to exercise this constitutional right is for citizens over 16 years and for permanent residents who have been living in the country not less than 2 years before election day. A dynamic test will be held on the coming 4th of March. This exercise aims to activate and test the system in place so as to ensure trouble-free elections and in which the media and the electoral mechanisms and structures are put into practice to avoid any setback. So the coming 11th of March, Cuba will elect deputies to the National Assembly of People's Power and delegates to provincial assemblies, and the next month, precisely the 19th of April, congressmen will elect a new president for Cuba.
And as Antigua and Barbuda prepares for a general election, Barbadian pollster Peter Wickham has been taking a look at issues of concern to citizens and the popularity of the main political parties. We get the details in the ABS News report.
Cost of living for 27% of those polled, with unemployment a distant second at 15%. In terms of party support, the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party held the ascendancy with 36%, while the UPP lagged at 24%. The DNA is left deep in the shadows at 5%. In Caribbean politics, the issue of leadership weighs heavily on the minds of voters, and this is where pollster Peter Wickham believes that the UPP and its leader, Harold Lovell, may find its most difficult struggle.
If he had more time, I would have said that the opportunity for him to mend fences with the DNA would be the logical route, because to me that's where he's hemorrhaging support. But suffice to say, there's not enough time for that. I think that door has been closed, and he really just has to look at enhancing his profile and presenting an option to people. I don't believe the idea of going down this road that suggests that the Antigua Labour Party is corrupt is necessarily the best road to go. I think that one of the things he has to do is to present an option that appears more attractive, development and ideas and things of that nature.
According to Wickham, Lovell may just have to come to terms with the fact, especially if a general election is called this year, that it wasn't the right time. His chances, he said, would have been better when the Labour Party was at its lowest ebb back in 2004.
Person for person, I think that Howard Lovell is okay, and I do feel that he has the potential to make a good leader, but it's just not a good time for him.
The DNA's political leader, Joan Messiah, holds a seat in the elective chamber of Parliament. Wickham says things would have been looking more favourable for the opposition had she been leading the party into the next general elections.
And this is the reason why I had always felt that the person that should be leading the UPP is Joan Messiah. Had she been leading the UPP now, I think it would be an entirely different scenario, because you're looking at someone who holds a seat in Parliament, a strong seat, and is essentially facing off against, Gaston Brown in Parliament. They chose to cite the leadership outside, and up to now I still do not understand the logic of looking past 3 members of Parliament, one who was formerly Prime Minister, and you're vesting leadership in someone who is not a member of Parliament, and he faces that challenge. But as I said, I think he's an okay person, and I think that he has the potential to be a good leader. But right now the stars are just not aligned, and the fact that he's not a member of Parliament does not help at all.
But although the DNA is threatening to take away some of the UPP's support, the third party, according to the Cadres poll, will not do well either.
The DNA is not likely to win a seat on its own, but it's definitely damaging the chances of the UPP in the 3 places that it is running, candidates.
Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, the umbrella body for Jamaica's trade union split over the acceptance of government's wage offer. The details when we return. Stay with us.
Come, experience cricket action like you have never seen it before at the Super 50 Cricket Festival 2018. 43 matches, Antigua and Barbados. 10 teams, an epic 50-over regional battle, a massive showcase of Caribbean cuisine, the crowning of the Super 50 Cup champion, and one big after party. Calling all cricket fans January 30 to February 24. Come for the action, stay for the vibes. Get your tickets now on the ticketing app, and for more details, go to windiescricket.com.
Well, there are a number of things that that I do, and it depends to some degree on what the case is.
Yeah.
And so I don't follow the same scripted format in talking to a jury.
Mm-hmm.
What you're really talking about, Steve, is the voir dire process,
right,
where lawyers are given an opportunity to talk to jurors, and then later on deselect jurors, if you will.
Yes.
All is not well within the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, the JCTU, following its decision last week to sign a 4-year wage deal with the government. The University and Allied Workers Union, the AUWU, has withdrawn from the Confederation. Representatives of that union walked out of an emergency meeting held on Monday to discuss concerns that the signing of the agreement was premature and not in the best interest of public sector workers. Under the deal, the workers will get a 5% increase in the first year, a 2% in the second year, 4% in the third year, and a 5% increase in the fourth year of the contract. But the University and Allied Workers Union isn't happy about the deal, and other members of the JCTU have also complained that the wage offer is not adequate to cushion workers from the effects of inflation. But JCTU President Helen Davis-White has dismissed claims that the Confederation ignored its members' concerns when it signed the wage agreement with government. Jamaica's opposition leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, has signaled he will take the proposed National Identification System, NIDS, to the Constitutional Court for it to be struck down. Phillips had been dropping hints of a potential legal challenge to the law, which was piloted through the lower house by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. But it was at it was at a PNP meeting that he made clear the next step intended to stop the government in its track. We get more in this TVJ News report.
The National Identification Registration Act was passed last November with objections from various groups, including the parliamentary opposition. Just last week, the government indicated during the throne speech that it is moving ahead with developing the National Identification and Registration Authority regulations to accompany the act. But for the PNP, the matter is far from over.
We plan to go to court over the National Identification Bill because we're not leaving it, sir.
With issues like crime still a big talking point for the opposition, Dr. Phillips says he wants to have dialogue with the government.
We in the People's National Party are calling for the Vale Royal talks to take place quickly and urgently, and to begin with the discussion of crime and the fixing of the criminal justice system. Because since them not here, we want to talk with them directly, earnestly.
In relation to the appointment of the Chief Justice, Dr. Phillips argues that the Prime Minister still needs to correct his error in appointing Justice Brian Sykes to act in the post.
We hear the cabinet issue a statement. We hear somebody from the press leak it say Friday gone and go have signing. But the one thing we have not heard from the Prime Minister is a clear statement that he's going to correct his mistake. Because his one man can make it simple, you know. Issue a statement that says, as soon as the constitutional arrangements can be completed, I will confirm the appointment of the Chief Justice. Solve everything. Nobody don't have to leak nothing. Nobody don't have to report what you're going to say. You can just say it yourself, but what happened? Here's tough.
In Trinidad and Tobago, the president of the Police Social and Welfare Association, Michael Seals, says any citizen who participated in the near riot that took place in East Port of Spain on Monday should be jailed. Fiery protests occurred on the outskirts of the city after residents claimed a wanted man was gunned down in cold blood by police. Roads were blockaded with burning debris, and there were scuffles between police officers and rioters protesting the shooting death of Akil James, also known as Christmas.
For us to now strategically respond in the way that we do those same protests, but ensure that all those persons who would have committed acts that run afoul of the law, that they be placed before the Port of Spain magistrates as early as tomorrow. That would send a message once and for all that this cannot be tolerated, and they should never think about doing that again.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, a row erupts between a Trinidadian triple Olympic medalist and the country's sports ministry. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Come, experience cricket action like you have never seen it before at the Super 50 Cricket Festival 2018. 43 matches, Antigua and Barbados. 10 teams, an epic 50-over regional battle, a massive showcase of Caribbean cuisine, and a crowning of the Super 50 Cup champion, and one big after party. Calling all cricket fans, January 30 to February 24. Come for the action, stay for the vibes. Get your tickets now on the ticketing app, and for more details, go to windiescricket.com.
But today, Bitcoin is cool. What has changed? No, let me start with the boss. Let me, because you're not a journalist. We're going to ask the questions though. But let me start. What has changed? What's the difference today?
Well, today is it's more about the notoriety. It's about exposure. You know, we're on this hockey stick curve. You know, Bitcoin started out. Actually, we're celebrating 9 years this week of Bitcoin. The white paper was released in 2009.
Well, right about this time of year, millions of tax-paying Americans are visiting their tax preparation professionals, or they're taking on the task themselves. It's tax season, and what better time to take a look at some of the ways our money is spent by the government. Now, while the media worries about the cost of a border wall, they fail to report on a few items that are definitely more peculiar. According to Oklahoma Senator James Langford, the National Endowment for the Arts spent $30,000 on a production of Doggy Hamlet.
A war of words has erupted between Trinidadian triple Olympic medalist Richard Thompson and the country's sport ministry over his standing as a national athlete. The 100-meter sprinter, who has been out of action because of injury, has been sidelined by the ministry for funding for his medical expenses. He claims the ministry has been treating him with scant courtesy since his injury. TV6's Vinod Nawani reports.
Olympic medalist Richard Thompson is unhappy after claiming that he was treated with scant courtesy by an official at the sports ministry during a conversation via email. Thompson, who is recovering from hip surgery done in January, is upset with Sport Development Associate Shabir Mohammed concerning elite athlete assistance. According to a January 26th email, Mohammed noted that both the N3As and the TTOC recommended that Thompson should receive elite funding. Mohammed in turn sent an email to Thompson which included the following question: can an injured athlete who has no world ranking be elite? This in turn hurt Thompson, who expressed disgust while talking on a radio program on I-95 FM over the weekend.
For them to address me in that manner, right, is extremely disrespectful. As a matter of fact, to address any athlete in that manner is extremely disrespectful. And you know, I was really appalled reading the message because through the entire correspondence, back and forth, I was very respectful. I was very professional with them.
According to Thompson, prior to his operation, his sister personally visited the ministry's office and presented medical documents to the sports minister's advisor, Garvin Warwick, which showed that $40,000 were needed for the operation. Warwick assured her that he would work on it and get back to her in a timely manner, but in the end, Thompson had to pay for the surgery himself.
These people talk about structure in the ministry. They talk about having a structure and saying that they're not doing things the right way and things should be done a certain way, but they also have no structure as to what goes on with disbursing funds for the athletes.
During the interview, Thompson also brought up another issue. He stated that the members of the 4x400 team that won gold at last year's World Championships in London were also treated shabbily.
I grieve when I open a newspaper and read that members of the Golden World Championship 4x400 meter team can't pay their credit card debt from money spent on preparation at one TNT gold medal in London 2017. It seems as though elite or not, paperwork or not, receipts or not, the end result is the same: a contemptuous disregard for the needs of our athletes by ministry officials.
Thompson rose to fame following his 100-meter silver in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, with Usain Bolt being the winner.
Two senior players on Jamaica's national football team are gaining the attention of football officials in England. Former Bayern Leverkusen midfielder Leon Bailey and his brother Kyle may be called up for duty. Leon, who rose to stardom in the German side, was brought back home to play in an international friendly against South Korea last month. And while the English move might appear to be a done deal, the Jamaica Football Federation is keeping fingers crossed that the celebrated footballer will be in for the long haul for his home team. TVJ's Renard Brown reports.
Many are asking if the story carried by the Sunday Mirror out of England is indeed true. The JFF would hope not, but Leon Bailey's agent Craig Butler says the interest is great and could go through, and not only for Bailey, but Kyle Butler too.
Yes, the English FA has approached us. They've also been to several of Leon's games, and they've approached Kyle, Leon, and myself, and they have invited both players to play with the English national team. I will meet with them further this week. It's something that you will have to consider if the JFF is unwilling to actually listen to reason.
But Butler's decision on who Bailey will represent on the international stage rests on whether he is offered the job as director of football at the JFF.
For me, at this point, I'm a patriot. I love Jamaica, but I'm not stupid either. And if the JFF is unwilling to ensure we have a system of play that we can put in place, and I'm good at doing that, then it makes very little sense for us to continue to belabor the point.
For Leon, who was not born in England to represent the country, he must qualify by virtue of having an England-born parent or a grandparent born in England. Great-grandparents do not count. To play for England without an ancestral or birth connection, a player has to have resided in England for a full 5 years before he reaches the age of 18. That means he must have arrived in England no later than his 13th birthday and must have stayed put continuously for a full 5 years. Players who come to England after the age of 18 and stay for 5 years or more will not qualify for England.
Over to horse racing, Rajiv Mirage hit the double-figure mark when he landed 2 wins on Monday's race card at Santa Anita Park. The Jamaican reinsman moved his aggregate for the season to 10 wins, putting him 15th on the Jockeys Championship table at the Western United States racetrack. Mirage scored a half-length victory aboard 6-1 chance Fahan Mura in the $33,000 fourth race, going 1,600 meters on the turf. He set the 4-year chestnut filly in a stalking position off the rail through the early fractions and made a bid outside of the leader on the backstretch before taking the advantage on the second turn, inching away to clock 1 minute 36.24 seconds. Mirage followed up with a comfortable 4.5-length victory astride the 4-1 chance Shifty Dancer in the $18,000 fifth race, a 1,200 meter sprint on the dirt track. Shifty Dancer had spent 3 deep, then duelled a bit off the rail, battling on the inside, leaving the backstretch before Mirage took a short lead on the 3-year-old dark bay colt into the turn and drew clear under a left-handed urgent to stop the clock at 1 minute 12.54 seconds. And that is the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Miguel Wilson is a 30-year-old entrepreneur. He specializes in agribusiness as well as the creation of small home furnishings. Although he doesn't have formal carpentry training, he is willing to become certified through the Construction Certification Training Program. The initiative was launched recently by the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy.
Again, the major developments of this day: a Jamaican teen under police investigation over threats to carry out a mass shooting at his school. And in sport, a war of words erupts between Trinidadian triple Olympic medalist Richard Thompson and the Sports Ministry over his standing as a national athlete. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to KarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.